So welcome everybody to our free monthly webinar for the Up Hypnosis Institute. The acronym is Up High, which I love. Just kind of accidentally, you know how those accidents in life happen? Those coincidences. Those of us that are hypnotists, we know that those coincidences happen a whole lot more as we do this work. And they're, of course, not really coincidences. You were just talking, Judy, about intention and Cynthia and manifesting and all this. You know, we put something out there and all of a sudden it's like the universe opens up and says, here, you ask and here. Now you can receive and say thank you and ask for even more. As long as you appreciate it, I think it keeps coming. So there you go. we did gratitude last month. So every November we do gratitude on the monthly webinar. And I try to keep them to the third Wednesday of each month. If it's different, you can always see it on my website, uphypnosis.com. But I really make an effort to make it on the third Wednesday of each month. If it's different, it would be on there. Okay, so I'm Patty, of course, Patty Scott with Up Hypnosis Institute. I'm in Tampa Bay area, Florida, Palm Harbor specifically. And I would like for everybody quickly, since this is a very fast webinar, but I want to know your name for my roster and that I send in so they know how many people came and where you're from, where you're coming to us from, and just maybe one or two sentences real quick if you're a hypnotist or what your interest is here. And since Cynthia was first, Dr. Edwards, would you like to go first, please?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Cynthia. I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm sitting in my office here at the New Orleans Counseling and Hypnosis Center. I've been here for about 10 years now as a lead hypnotist. I'm also a board certified hypnotherapist with IAC and IHR. I forget the other one. IAC and
IMDHA.
There you go.
So you know Michael Watson, no doubt.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes.
Lucky you. I'm so glad you're here.
This is my first time, so go easy on me.
And I know you told me you have to leave early, but this will be, you can watch the rest of it later, what you missed. You've got a client, you said. So we're so happy you're here, and I'm happy to reconnect with you after many years from the Louisiana Hypnosis organization that I used to go present to. I love that group. Okay, Judy, you want to go next?
Judy Cosentino, I'm from New Jersey. I've been doing hypnosis for many years, and I studied medical hypnosis with Patty. So I pretty much follow her with mostly everything that she does. And I love the Wednesday night classes. So thank you.
Thank you. Michael.
Yes, Michael Stern, Palm Bay, on the other side of Florida from Patty. And I have been trained as a hypnotist, hypnotherapist, and I've been just doing it a bit with a few people, getting my feet wet again and enjoying it very much.
Thank you for being here, Michael. Love it, love it. Jose, you want to go next? You have to unmute. Can't hear you. Okay. Let me go to someone else maybe. I hope you can fix that. Okay. How about Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Stevens, and I am training with Miss Jessica Hansen.
Beautiful.
Right now.
Lucky you.
Yes, I feel very fortunate. I'm excited to be here for the very first time.
Glad you're here. And where are you from? Did you say did I miss it?
Please, Minnesota.
I'm sorry, what part of Minnesota?
I'm in Prior Lake Savage area, which is, I don't know. Do you know Minnesota? We say
only a few places.
Okay. Yeah, I'm about 2 hours from Jessica.
Okay.
In the closer to the cities, Twin Cities.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm familiar more with Rochester area.
Oh, beautiful area.
I had a kitty cat that was born there that I had for 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
Special place. Mm-hmm. How about you, Maribel?
I am Maribel, and I live in Seattle, in North Seattle, and getting inundated with texts about this. We're all covered in snow here, which is unusual.
That's right.
Winter Wonderland. It's and
Wow.
I'm
It
feeding
looks pretty.
But
It looks pretty, right?
that because they're fast and furious coming for their food. Those hummingbirds. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I've been a hypnotherapist for almost 25 years now. I took my training at the Hypnotherapy Academy of America in Albuquerque, but I've had other trainings too, and I don't know where I stumped across you, Patty, but
Yeah, your name, I know your name well. You look familiar, and who knows? We bounce all over the place.
And I'm so excited to know that it's every month. I didn't know that. I just
Yes.
saw this thing come in my email, and I was like, spiritual hypnosis, I'll take it.
Beautiful. Well, I'm so glad you're here, and they're all on YouTube if you want to look them up, or if you're interested in a particular one, I can just send you the link or something.
Okay, great.
So glad you found us, and so glad we connected again. Jessica, so glad to see you.
Yes, I'm glad to be here too. So I'm Jessica Hansen. I'm in Wilmer, Minnesota, kind of central, right in the middle. And I am a member of IACT and IMDHA. I'm also board certified, I believe, through both. And I am an instructor with IACT.
Yes, you are. And you're a wonderful person who shares, and you're so generous, and you're always helping your students, as I always make an effort to do as well, to discover other venues of, you're very generous that way about helping your students to find other venues for learning. Because I think we should all learn from everybody.
Yes, I had good mentors.
Yeah, ditto for me too. We're, accidentally bumped into the greatest people in the world to mentor us and to teach us. And I'll be talking some about that tonight. Jackie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Young. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, so much closer to the Minnesota area than the Florida area. And we are expecting a huge storm just in time for the holidays. So that's got us a little bit worried. But I've been doing hypnotherapy for just a little while now. And I ran across Michael Watson, and in that class, Patty and I connected, and then we connected again. And then I actually went down to Florida, and we kind of met in between Orlando and where Patty's from, and sat down at a bar and had a wonderful lunch and actually got to know each other.
And talked for hours.
Talked for hours. It was very magical, very, very wonderful.
Fun.
And I'll be going down to Orlando in May also.
Oh, good.
For
good.
Yeah, for that.
We'll talk about that in a
conference.
minute. Yeah, I'm going to definitely talk about that.
So nice to see some of you again. And that's me.
Glad you're here. ASB Designs, I'm going to go out on a branch there. I might follow up and say, is it Kim? No, not Kim. I broke the branch.
Oh, no problem. That was my graphic design company. I am Tony Baumgartner.
Tony.
I am studying under the amazing Jessica Hansen.
Beautiful. Okay, and you're in Minnesota as well, you said?
I am in Minnesota, and I have Jackie Storm right now.
Yeah, I feel for you. I feel for you guys. I grew up in the St. Louis area. I don't miss that weather at all. This is really a tough one this time. So stay safe. Stay safe. Don't go out in it unless you have to. And it's so pretty though, isn't it? It really is pretty.
It is.
Okay, Renee.
I don't know what the criteria was to say hey, but
we're just saying where we're from and basically
okay.
just a sentence or two of hello.
Okay. I'm from Palm Coast, Florida, which is on the East Coast side, kind of in the middle between Daytona and St. Augustine. It is supposed to be 27 degrees here.
Yeah, what's with that? It's Florida. It's not supposed to get that cold. Oh my goodness.
And I just got certified through Michael Watson. And
Congratulations.
Yay! That's right. You're all done. What, a week or two ago? A couple weeks ago? It's only the beginning, right? Now onward and upward.
Onward
Beautiful.
and upward.
Did I miss anybody? Because the box is shifted, so I want to make sure I didn't forget anyone. Did I get everybody? I think so.
Jose still.
Raise your hand. Oh, Jose, can we hear you yet? Or... Oh, I want to hear Jose. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, Jose, nice to see you. I haven't seen Jose since the medical hypnotherapy, I think, right? Long while back, a couple years ago. Last year, whenever it was. Time flies. So let's get going here. This is also considered, these 1 hour webinars every month are considered also a chapter meeting for IACT, which is of course the International Association of Counselors and Therapists, and also a chapter meeting for the HEA, which is a Florida-based not-for-profit educational group. It's Hypnosis Education Association again. And just a couple quick things, the conference for IACT that they combine with IMDHA, which is the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association, is going to be May 19th through the 21st, 2023. I'm so excited, in beautiful Orlando, Florida. And I am going to be doing a 1 day this time, instead of a 2 day that we did the last few years, 1 day medical hypnotherapy specialty training that is a training all of itself that you get a certificate for at the conference on the the Thursday, the 18th, pre-conference. And then if anyone wants to get certified through IMDHA and through my company as a certified medical hypnotherapist specialty certification, they can continue on. And it's all like in the last few years, it's all online. It's all going to be interactive online after that with some outside assignments. That is optional. And then you would have 2 certifications as a medical hypnotherapy specialist. And then HEA, the Hypnosis Education Association, I'm the president this year and next year. And the next year's live conference, 1 day conference, this isn't written in stone yet, but it's about 90% sure that it's going to be April 22nd. If that's not the date, it'll be very close to that. April 22nd is going to be in Oldsmar, Florida. And the website is heahypnosis.com. The website I forgot to say for IACT is iact.org, O-R-G. So you can look those up. Quick announcement, the Dave Ellman Legacy Global Zoom Conference, long name. Everything has long names in hypnosis, don't they? This will be the second year that they're going to be doing it in January. I was part of the first one, and I will be a part of this one. It's going to be January the 20th through the 22nd. And I believe it's on the first day of it, I'm doing a presentation on pre-talk as a catalyst for change and how to set your client up for success, all of that good stuff. And for my company, Up Hypnosis Institute, every year for the 19th year in a row since the very first World Hypnotism Day. And if you haven't heard of that, you haven't been in the hypnosis world for very long, but this will be the 19th year. January 7th is going to be my event. January 4th is officially World Hypnotism Day, and people do events all over the world. And I'm going to do a short free seminar on January, whatever the 4th is. I didn't write down the day, the 4th. And then on the 7th, which is Saturday, we're doing our big event that's a fundraiser for the veterans of foreign wars. And we always give 100% of the proceeds to charity of some kind. The last few years, I've switched over to the veterans, and that's where it's going. So that's going to be January 7th. My website is uphypnosis.com. And if you'd be interested, if you sign up at the VIP level, you'll get all kinds of about $150 to $200 worth of ebooks and recordings from all the presenters, which is Shelley Stockwell. I'm sure some of you know her. Myself, Shelley Stockwell, Michael Watson, Art Emmerich, and Peter Blum with his amazing vibrational healing. He does a lot of stuff with sound vibration. Oh my goodness. It is just amazing. So there you go. That's all the announcements. Now let's get going with what we're really here for. You know what? Spiritual hypnosis. When you say that to anybody, how many different directions can people's brains go with that? A lot, right? A lot of different directions. And wherever your mind went with it that brought you here, my goal for this webinar is that by the end of the webinar, you get some surprises, you get some interesting little tidbits, and I'll throw out some names and some of people that have influenced me and that I've been impressed by. And hopefully you will walk away. I always think with a webinar like this, it's good to walk away with a lot of curiosity to want to know more. Because again, it's a quick webinar. So the first thing I want to say is spiritual doesn't necessarily, and I know you all know this, doesn't necessarily mean religious, right? religion is a man-made thing that is trying to put things in a box. Men like to put the things in box. When I say men, by the way, I'm from the old school, the Bible school, you know, where when you say men, you mean mankind, which means everybody. So let's get that out of the way. I'm not going to go there other than that quick statement. So people, again, have different impressions based on your background, based on how you were raised, based on the experiences you've had surrounding anything with the word spiritual on it or connected to it. You're going to have attitudes and assumptions and all kinds of things, probably some triggers even, maybe, possibly good ones, hopefully good ones, and possibly some that maybe are a little different than that. So in this context, when I think of spiritual in relation to hypnosis and hypnotherapy, which is my field for 30 years professionally and studying it another 20 before that, to me, the hypnotic state that brought me to this field as a professional 30 years ago, that I learned again before that, the state of hypnosis to me is what allowed me to reconnect and to make that extremely close connection to what some people might call a higher power or God or some other name for that higher power.
Only one prong was in there.
Uh-oh, we've got some background sound here. So if that, I'm going to mute somebody here just for the heck of it. Okay. So whatever your thoughts are of where information or help comes from outside of yourself, that's what I think of as spiritual. Now, when I'm working with clients, we, of course, have to step into our clients' belief systems and work within that realm. And our job isn't, I don't believe, to try to convince them or retrain them in any of that. It's to use whatever they already understand and expand on that and help it to be more available to them. So to me, I think of the hypnotic state as a way to open the channel, so to speak, to the unconscious mind. You might use the term subconscious mind, whatever term you use for that which is outside of our conscious awareness, which is most everything, most of what's going on within our body. And this is why it can be so healing, because you can tap into a power beyond our limited human consciousness. So when I was thinking about this, some of my people that I met when I first got into professional hypnosis, I started doing all of my medical training my first year in the field 30 years ago in Arizona. And there was an organization at that time called the National Board for Hypnotherapy and Hypnotic Anesthesiology. It was around for many years. And then the owner, the gentleman that founded it, Sean Longacre, died. And they just, the rest of the people just couldn't keep it going. But I met a lot of wonderful people going to Arizona. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And I would make several trips a year for several days, sometimes a couple of weeks at a time, to study there. And it was my beginning introduction to all of these things. And a gentleman I met right away that for some interesting reason just became my loving friend, it was one of those connections that we just connected, was a gentleman named Paul Durbin. And he was there every time I went almost, and I started learning from him. He was a chaplain. This is one of his books. It's called, interestingly, Kissing Frogs. Isn't that a beautiful name? Now, he was Chaplain Paul Durbin. He also was a brigadier general in the Army. So this was a big teddy bear of a man that was just amazing on so many levels I can't even begin to tell you. For a long time, his website was still going. He died in 2017, and I miss him dearly. I had seen him not that long before that, and I actually got an email from him on February 1st. He died on the 17th. The February 1st email that I still saved is telling good news that the doctor said he's free of cancer, and the 17th he died of cancer. So doctors don't always know, do they? But you know what? He was an amazing person. And his books, he's somebody that could quote the Bible because he was a chaplain. And he was a chaplain in Louisiana that I'm sure Dr. Edwards knows all about, Paul Durbin. And he was good friends with Mark Babineau, who does the ethics portion of the IACT thing. So there's a lot of connections here. And Paul Durbin was the very first person in the United States to have a staff hypnotherapist's office in a major hospital. He worked with the Methodist Hospital. I don't remember the full name of it, but it was the Methodist Hospital in New Orleans. And he was the chaplain there. And because he had such credibility and he was such a wonderful hypnotherapist and knew it could aid in healing and in helping people through the grieving process and through the dying process and to connect to their higher power, he brought it into the hospital there. So he had that groundbreaking opportunity that we can attribute to him. The last book that he wrote is called Hypnotherapy for Body, Mind, and Spirit. So Paul G. Durbin, and that's the last one that he wrote. And both of those are available out there if you want to look them up, and they're well worth getting. A lot of case histories in there and a lot of his insights. Now, Paul wrote a lot about Viktor Frankl, if some of you may be familiar with or have heard that name. Viktor Frankl was quite an interesting person. I think I learned more about him from reading Paul Durbin's writings than I ever knew prior to that. And he was obviously a Holocaust. I think he spent about 3 or 4 years in 3 or 4 different concentration camps. He lost his father in one. His mother and one of his brothers died at Auschwitz. And, just what a background. And he was a brilliant man. He was a psychiatrist, and he had a great career in Vienna, I believe is where he was from, until the war hit and he was put in these concentration camps. So he had a book called The Unconscious God. And this is one of the few books I've got to admit I don't have. And I just decided today when I was remembering all of this that I'm going to get that book by Viktor Frankl. And he didn't die till 1997. So like I said, Paul Durbin was very fascinated with him. And I honestly don't remember if they were friends or if he knew him personally very well, but he wrote a lot about him, so I wouldn't be surprised. So in 1997, Frankl died. And he talked about in The Unconscious God, the relationship between psychology and religion. And he also wrote a book. He wrote, I think, 30 something books, but another book he wrote is called Man's Search for Meaning. So Viktor Frankl is someone who claimed that when he was in these concentration camps, it was his unconscious mind, his imagination that kept him sane, that kept him going. And he had some amazing writing. So I really want to read more by him as well. The other thing I was going to bring up, some of you are familiar with, if not most of you, Roy Hunter and the Tebbetts Parts Therapy Foundation that he founded based on his mentor, who was Charles Tebbetts, and kind of handed the mantle over to him to continue his teachings. And he wrote a book he edited a book, I should say, put together a book and invited hypnotherapists from all over the world to participate. And I was very frankly surprised and honored that he asked me at the conference one year if I would contribute a chapter to this book. And it's called The Art of Spiritual Hypnosis. And there's a whole list down here in small print of all of the contributing authors from all over the world. And I am chapter 10 in this book is my contribution, which culminated in working with about 12 to 14, I believe it was, people using the Tebbetts and Hunter style of parts therapy with the specific purpose in that case of bringing in their higher power to assist them, the part of them that's most closely connected to the higher power. It was a beautiful experience doing the research for that. It took a long time and a lot of writing, and I worked with several people who'd never been hypnotized before, and it was quite fascinating, the answers that they were getting to their questions. And it really inspired me. It was just a beautiful experience writing that. So, and I know it's available out there still on Amazon. I think I saw it on the Walmart site for like $9.95 or something like that. So it's available as well if you want to read a lot of great stories about accessing a higher power through the hypnotic state. And if any of you do parts therapy, there are different ways to do it, of course, but the way that I do it, I see it as a trance-inducing technique in itself. In other words, by doing parts therapy with a person, they get so involved in the process, they go into trance, even though their eyes are open the way that I do it for most of it, and they're talking to you. through the parts, of course, which is metaphorically, the parts are connected to where all that other information is that's outside of their conscious ability, human ability to access. So it was a beautiful way to use parts therapy to bring in that higher power. So if you think about how, you know, if those of you that are hypnotists, I think you're all hypnotists here. If you've ever, when you were starting, run into someone that came up to you as you were out marketing yourself, or maybe going to trade shows, or however you were doing your promotion to get clients and to get your business going. Do you ever have someone come up to you and say, you know, my preacher told me that, you know, hypnosis is the devil. It's like witchcraft, or, you know, these crazy things. We don't thankfully get it quite as much today, but those impressions are still out there. Yeah. And I was doing a trade show one time, and I had my banner up, and it said, you know, hypnotherapy and medical hypnosis. And it said, when the mind and body work together, the possibilities are unlimited, which is part of the take on my company name. Unlimited possibilities is what UP stands for. And I always believed and held at an unconscious level and an unspoken level that hypnosis does connect you to whatever your thoughts are about where all of that help and inspiration and healing can come in and assist you. And a gentleman with his collar stepped up to my table and said, you know, there's something missing there. He was pointing at my sign that said mind and body, right? He said, it doesn't say anything about spirit. And I just smiled at him. And I said, you know what? The mind and body are how we access the spirit. That's the part that gave us this body, and that's running, you know, giving us information through our mind to heal our body. And we got into this really interesting discussion. So if you think about, you know, as you remember learning the history of hypnosis, the sleep temples in Greece, right, centuries ago, priests would bring people in with different ailments, and they would do laying on of hands, and they would, in whatever the ritual was of that day, put them into a meditative, you might call it a mindful, you might call it a prayer state. You know, they put them into that place with the expectation that they were going to be healed, of course, because they had heard about the temples. So they had that pre expectation coming there. And of course, the priests that were doing their ritual had a lot of credibility, because after all, they were priests and they had a good track record, you know. So people would come and they would do a laying on of hands that some people might even say it's kind of like Reiki, or like some other form of energy work, right? So we can give all kinds of interpretations and human language and little boxes we can put these things in, but really it's all the same thing, no matter what the ritual is, no matter what the technique or the words spoken or the touch or the not touch or the distance, right? Because we know we can do distance healing with people, because it's not, in my paradigm, it's not me that's healing the client. It's the client that's healing themselves with my guidance. I'm helping them access the part of them that knows how to heal, that knows everything about them. So that's, just so you know, that's kind of my approach to this. It's such a big topic. I could spend hours talking about this, but basically, if you think of prayer is you could think of that as a state of hypnosis. It's a quiet place where you can go inside of yourself and you have access to more information than you would have if you're in your busy conscious mind out in the world, right? You tend to get more in tune, if you will, with more information that's available. And the more you do that and expect that and get really good at getting yourself to be quiet and to listen, the more amazing information you tend to have access to. That channel just keeps getting wider and wider. And before you know it, you're tuned in to everything that's available. And isn't that kind of what we're all working to do, maybe? I don't know if you've ever thought of it like that. That's kind of the way I think of it. So whether you call it prayer, the prayer state, or meditation, right? Back when I was growing up in the 70s, you know, it was transcendental meditation, TM. That was a big thing, right? And I was reading all those books, and it was so beautiful. And I thought, wow, and I was practicing every little thing that I could find to practice that allowed me to get in touch with that higher intelligence, that higher part of me that has a connection to something beyond myself. And now we have mindfulness in the psychology world, right? Mindfulness is a lot like hypnosis. I did one of these webinars a year or two ago on mindfulness. There were three of them: hypnosis, mindfulness, and something else. I forget what the third one was. It'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, it's comparing and contrasting them. And it turns out they're all pretty much the same thing with different labels and different little pieces. The main difference that I found in the research that I did for that webinar was that hypnosis takes all of the elements of all the ones that work and brings them all together and adds an extra oomph, adds an extra level of awareness and ability to tap in. At least that was my opinion. And if any of you know Michael Yapko, who's got a lot of books out there, he's really into hypnosis, got some beautiful webinars out there on depression and anxiety and a lot of things, and some great books. He loves hypnotherapy, and he basically was one of the people I researched for that webinar who said hypnosis, more than all of them put together, adds another element, and yet it incorporates all the best of all of those other things. So when I teach my medical hypnosis class, I always have at the center on one of the pages that I developed, because I like graphic visuals, something that can be a representation, because that's what our imagination does with everything. It takes in all the data and all the words and all the sentences and all the visions and sounds, and it makes internal representations then to make sense of it for us, for our internal world. Michael Yapko, because of what I learned from him and some other people, I created a page that had a circle in the center that said hypnosis. And then it had all these little, parts that went out from it. And it was positive psychology and mindfulness and psychology and positive psychology and all these different realms that have little pieces of what we as hypnotherapists have discovered and used. And a lot of them now are starting to incorporate them, especially the last 8 to 10 years. I'm noticing more and more in the psychology world, they're incorporating what we've been doing for a long, long time. So I think we kind of had a little bit of a head start on what the people in psychology are finally beginning to become aware of. So higher powers, there's a lot of techniques and processes out there you can use. I think just about any hypnotic technique can be used and incorporate bringing in a higher power, or some people might like to call it a spirit guide. I've had some people who come in and they say, I know I have an angel or angels that watch over me. So you better believe I'm going to use their language and their representation, because we're human and we might be inaccurate with what we think it might be. But whatever we think it is, if it's helping us, we want to expand on that, right? And we want to expand on what our client has already tapped into and has a belief system built around. And then we can help them to get even more information about where they've already figured out. I did want to bring up, for those of you who really want to get into all of the nuances, and there are a lot of areas you can get into with spiritual hypnosis. About a year or two ago, Shelley Stockwell contacted me, and she was going to start a new program. If a lot of you know her, I'm sure. She has the International Hypnosis Federation, IHF. Her website is hypnosisfederation.com. She's out in Palos Verdes, California. I've known her the whole time. I've been in the field as well. And she asked me if I wanted to participate in the first spiritual counselor certification training that she was putting together. And she wanted the first training to be interactive online with certain people. And I still paid for it. It wasn't like I got it for free. It was really extensive. And I jumped in because I just knew it was going to be fascinating with Shelley at the head of it. And Kathy Kennedy was her co-host on the training. They put it together and put a book together. And it was beyond my wildest. I've known Shelley a long time. I know she can really get out there. And I thought, this is going to be so much fun, and it's going to be so broad-based. It was way beyond even what I could have imagined. So if you really want to get into all of the different realms and aspects of what metaphysical and spiritual and all of that can encompass, her program now, she put all that together, and it's a complete online program. You'll see me there because I was, again, part of the creation of the program in the beginning, but it was truly fascinating. And there's some things in there that for some people would be way over the edge. I'll tell you that right away. And that's okay. And there was less of it over the edge for me than there would have been if she'd asked me 20 years earlier or 30 years earlier. Because, as we do this work, we get to the point where not much surprises me anymore. And if something hits me right away that I'm not sure I'm going to buy into it, or I'm not sure if I agree with the way it's being presented, like I said at the end of today, of this webinar, the best way to approach all of this, I believe, is to be really, really curious. So I've learned to get real curious. If I don't understand something, or if it hits me in a weird way or a strange way, I'm going to say, I want to find out more about that. And more often than not, I would say probably every time that happens, and I do look into it more, I get something very useful that helps me be better at helping people. Because we have all kinds of people in the world, don't we? So, the more you can relate and have access and have more flexibility with what you have to offer your clients, the better able you are to help more people in more ways, I believe. So what I'd like to hear from each of you quickly, because this is really going fast, as I said, is just maybe in 1 minute or less, what is your impression and opinion at this point, idea, about spiritual hypnosis in the realm of working with your clients? And Judy, why don't you go first? Because we might all get some ideas from this. I hope so. I plan to.
Okay, I use it with all of my people. I use it with myself all the time, but I use it with everyone because everybody has their own connection. So it's not that I bring it up as, oh, we're going to do spiritual hypnosis, because everybody can relate to that higher power, and those who maybe aren't really great at that have something to hold on to, that there's something bigger than themselves, and some part of them, their higher self, knows more than they do.
Very
So
nice.
I have found it that it goes with everyone, and it doesn't matter who walks into my office. Everybody jumps right on board. So
Beautiful.
all the time.
Beautiful. Very good. Okay. Michael, how about you? What are your impressions about spirituality and hypnosis blending?
Yes.
There.
Well, I agree. I agree with that. I think that I'd have to be very sensitive to what each client would bring, because otherwise, yeah, I think I would be kind of self-conscious about imposing too many of my preconceptions on them. So I think that's very I think that's very good advice.
Yeah, very good. And that's true, because we do have to, hopefully you all have a clearing mechanism, I call it. Before I'm in front of that client, I clear everything about me, because it's not about me. You step into their world. But I have had people through the years that had experiences in hypnosis and had sometimes spontaneous regressions and things like that would happen, where afterwards and before and after they would tell me they don't have any belief in any kind of God or power, it's just you live, you die, that's it, But I've had all of those without exception after the session, and a couple of them were quite profound, said that they got something they know didn't come from themselves. They knew that, but they didn't want to, they weren't ready to make a leap, and they didn't need to. They were happy with the information they got, the help they got, but they, even afterwards, one of them in particular said, I'm still an atheist. I still don't believe in that, but I know that I got it from somewhere. And I said, great, and that's why I said, we don't want to, like you said, we don't want to guide them to our belief systems. And mine's fluid anyway. I believe in so many things. It's, and it's always, changing and growing and evolving, but we do know we can access. And if people just believe in universal consciousness, the Carl Jung idea, there's a lot of different ways, but these are all human interpretations of just what happens in hypnosis. Whatever they want to call it is fine with me. So beautiful. That's perfect. Thank you, Michael. Stephanie, you want to share what you got?
Sure. So we are brand new at, I am brand new at this, Tony, modality because still in training. But the beautiful thing about training with Jessica and Tony is that we get a lot of work practicing with each other, and we get to go really deep. And we know we've had conversations in the learning process about this and being sensitive to clients and the reality that it will be different for every single person. And that there will be surprises along the way. There will be people who don't know that they believe in certain things. And then, as you mentioned, something amazing will happen and come up, and you know, they'll end the process with a brand new enlightenment. So I'm excited to dive into this arena. I'm just open. I don't have the experience yet, but I'm open.
Yeah, and that's the important part, especially if you're just coming into this professionally, is to be open. And like you said, don't put your stuff on the client. This is about helping them get what they want, as long as you're ethically and morally okay with it. I always say, you know, with what they're asking you to help them with, then it's all about them and where can they find the answers? And we know that they get them from somewhere else because they didn't have them walking in the door. And we can get them into a state where they have access to it. Whatever, like I said, whatever their interpretation is of that can only help them to know, you know, and you can use this for all kinds of things in your life. For healing is a beautiful way to tap into this. So how about you, Maribel? What are your thoughts?
I had a client just a couple days ago who I asked him in the session if he had a sense of greater power than himself, and he said, "Oh no, definitely not." And I've never had that, and it almost, I think he almost kind of half came out of hypnosis to defend himself. And then I said, "Well, do you have a sense of being your best self?" And he said, "Oh yes." And all of a sudden he was off and running, and he was right back deep where he'd been. And he suddenly started popping with insights about where he needed to go. And he started getting messages about why he was doing certain things. And it was really pivotal point when he identified that he had a best self.
Beautiful.
And I said to him, that really is a spiritual belief, honestly. And he
was he ready to hear that?
Yeah, no, he liked it.
Okay,
he said,
good.
"Well, if
Yeah,
that's spirituality, I believe in that."
Yeah. So think about that. We take them into a state where they're tapping into their best self. And wouldn't that be the part that has a connection to whatever got us here, right? And they don't have to believe in that concept even, like you said. Their best self is somewhere inside of them and came in with the package, and we're helping them access it. So using that language, if that made him happy, now he's got access to more of what can help him be more of what he wants to be, right? Get what he came for. Beautiful. I love that story. Jackie, how about you?
I'm just going to concur with what everyone else has said also. I do a lot of parts therapy as part of the course of meeting with almost all of my clients, but I've recognized that it's a little bit different than what everyone else speaks about in terms of parts therapy. But what always happens is exactly what Maribel has said and what all the other people have alluded to, is that people will come out and just be shocked at how profound it is to have met this new part, or the part that holds the answers to what the queries were. And whether they call it spirituality or whatever they call it makes no difference at all. It's just that profoundness that is just so remarkable to see within them, that they've made a connection to a resource of some kind and recognize that, you know, they're strengthened by it, however they want to categorize it at that point.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. I had one just a couple of weeks ago that we were just talking in general, and I'm trying to get a sense of what are their, you know, thoughts about different things. And they started talking. It turned out that their best, almost like my best self kind of an idea. They said, I think of it like I've got this, like an inner or a higher intelligence inside of me. I don't know where it comes from, but every once in a while it kicks in and it just gives me what I need. So of course I used higher intelligence as the guiding word for that. So yeah, we definitely want to be careful not to impose our our interpretations on the clients. But they all have it available. Without fail, they all have access to it. If they didn't, then hypnosis, wouldn't be very useful, would it? We could just do talk therapy and, like Fraser Crane, have a client for, 30 years that comes every week and nothing ever much happens. And that's, I always tell my clients, usually 3 sessions, you probably never need to come see me again. If you can just do this for yourself. How many therapists or doctors say that to people? Their goal is to get them out and never have to come back. It doesn't happen. And that makes us different too, by the way, because we really care about our clients. Not that doctors and therapists don't, but I think it's a whole different approach. Okay, how about Tony? I remembered this time.
Thank you so much. I'm with Stephanie and Jessica, which is such I'll use the word divine, amazing experience.
I wish I could be in your class after meeting you guys. I wish I could be there. Wish I could have been with you.
They are just amazing women, and I've grown so much, in the class, not only learning, but just myself also. When I have people come to my studio, and I'm come from the shamanic, the intuitive background, prior to them coming, I always then would connect with the higher self, their divine self, and draw an oracle card. And it always fits with how the session unfolds. And so I started to do that with my hypno sessions, and then even having the clients draw a card afterwards. And they're always amazed at their belief system and the connection with God, spirit, source, whatever they use. So yeah, hypnosis is amazing.
Beautiful. I love all the different backgrounds that all come together, and each one brings a little different nuance to it, right? I love it. Thank you, Tony. Okay, how about Renee?
I come from a very religious, spiritual background. Years and years and years of studying different religions. My stepfather was a pastor. My mother was a Carmelite nun. So all kinds of stuff. And I kind of find the truth, kind of a thread of it throughout everything. And I find it interesting that the universe, and the universe to me is God, gave me Michael. Of all the people that I could have studied with, I'm studying with a pastor.
Who was a Benedictine monk, right?
Monk, yes. And so I'm
talk about an interesting background.
Since I'm new to this situation, I'm kind of modeling Michael and kind of paying attention to how he incorporates his belief system within all the rest of stuff. And it's a really nice balance, and nobody seems to be, taken aback or anything. So we'll see where it goes. I'm sure that I will have challenges, but it'll be fun. It's an adventure.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're on an amazing adventure, right? Okay, Jessica. Wonderful, Jessica. You're getting a lot of accolades from your students here. Well deserved.
No, for me, when I started, I think my very first client, I realized what Roy had been talking about in his books right away of we are spiritual workers with hypnosis. And so that was like from day one with my first client. And I keep telling so many people that I meet, like they're going, what is hypnosis? I'm like, it's soul work. I mean, it's the most spiritual work that you could ever do in yourself. So that's my passion and my drive. And I find so many clients, it's so fun with, I've worked with some moms who've had stillbirths, and we've done some sessions where just, going back beyond and getting that healing that they need. It's so easy. They just accept it. But yeah, answers, healing, anything they need. It's just so easy and almost effortless at times, as long as you use the client's words that they use to describe it.
Yeah, for that part, yeah, you definitely want to. And then,
but it is like maybe the 6th or 7th question on my intake form with every client of what is your spiritual or religious belief?
Yeah.
And I found more,
If any.
yeah, if any, but more now after COVID, after these past 2 years, people are just searching. They're lost.
Yeah.
And when I ask them that question, and then they're like, well, I'm really open to whatever. They're just more open than they've ever been. So it's fun.
Nice. Very nice. And again, I think we all draw people to us that resonate with, on some level, our understandings. And if not, like I said, I've had a few people that just flat out said, no, I don't believe in any of that stuff. And they still had a spiritual experience. Like you said, it is soul work. I love the way you said it. It's soul work. Yeah. You know, and if people don't believe they have a soul, they still find it. They still get what they need, right? So it's really cool. And I don't know, Jose, are we going to get to hear your nice voice or no? No, he can't. Ooh, we got to learn hand gestures here.
Jose put something in the comment section too.
Oh, he did. Oh,
In the chat.
thank you. Well, I keep forgetting about that chat thing. Jumping into the paradigm of the client that takes flexibility. Very nice. Very beautiful. We got just a few little minutes left here. It was, you know, we talked about coincidences at the beginning of this, and I think probably all of you will agree with some of what I'm about to say, that when you work in the field of hypnosis and you kind of live in this world that I dove into it, you know, with my entire self as soon as I started learning all these things, because it resonated with things I knew as a child, but I didn't know how I knew them. And I think some of you can relate to that kind of an idea, right? So last night, I was up late as usual. And some of you may have heard of a show called Coast to Coast AM on the radio. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's had a reputation as being pretty bizarre because back when I first found it 20 or 25, 30 years ago, they would talk about alien abductions and Bigfoot and, you know, a lot of strange stuff. But every once in a while, they would have somebody, like one night after I moved to Florida, I turned it on. I like to turn it on when I'm working out in my workout room. It's very interesting stuff sometimes. And there was Bruce Lipton. Now, Bruce Lipton is someone that I studied with in California. He was actually on the board of directors at the American Board of Hypnotherapy. And if you're not familiar with him, he was a cell biologist at Stanford University. And his first book was called The Biology of Belief. And he was one of the pioneers that took the science of hypnosis a long way toward people realizing that our thoughts affect the inner makings of the cells and even the DNA, that you can make adjustments in the DNA with thought. Now, that sounds out there for some people, not us, of course, because we already know that. I knew it before I knew there was science to prove it, but Bruce Lipton was there. So once in a while I tune into Coast to Coast AM if I'm up late at night. And last night I happened to turn it on, and there just happened to be a gentleman talking about lucid dreaming and dreams and dream learning. So we all know we drift through the hypnotic brainwave state when we go to sleep. You know, we learned that in our training, right? We go through those brainwave states. What happens once you fall asleep when you're in there? And he started talking about, I wanted to call into the show, but I didn't. But everything he talked about, I had the experience of mostly when I was a young child. One was two people having the same dream. I had a sister that was 11 months younger than me, and at about age 10 or 9 or 10, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there, we saw King Kong, the movie King Kong, the black and white old movie with Fay Wray. And we had a little school that in the little town where we grew up that had 2 rooms. Grades 1 through 4 was in one room, and grades 5 through 8 was in the next room. And it happened to be at the time when I was in the 5th grade. So I was in the room that had the principal was the teacher of all 4 grades, all at the same time. You were all in there at the same time. And my sister was still in the 1st room with who was the church piano player, and he was the choral director, and we sang at church and all the time. So he was the teacher of grades 1 through 4, and we learned catechism. It was a Lutheran school, and we learned all these other things. But we had the same, after seeing King Kong, we both had the same dream and told each other about it the next day. And the dream was that we were at school in our little classroom and King Kong's head came up like he does in the movie. And his eyes are looking through the windows of the school, right? And it was only a 2-story school. So he must have been on his knees or lying down or something. I don't know. You don't think about that stuff. And the dreams were identical, except in my dream, he was in the windows of my classroom. And in her dream, he was in the windows of her classroom. So he was talking about that. And I said, oh yeah, we did that, you know. And then he talked about dream learning. And I have maybe I'll do a whole webinar on this sometime about dream learning, learning in your sleep. And I've got many examples in my life where I just knew intuitively when I was younger, because I guess I did it a few times, that I could tell my brain to learn something while I was sleeping. And I used it all through my life. And when I was a songwriter in Nashville many years later in I call it my past life, my showbiz life for 20 years, in my 20s and 30s, I got, there's one example I give all the time about getting stuck on a song lyric and I couldn't get it. It just didn't, you know, because writing and painting and all of these artistic things are getting into that same state. You're still in that state of hypnosis. It's your creative mind. Either that or usually the painting or the song isn't going to turn out very good. It's going to be formula. It's not going to have that soul, right? So I was writing this beautiful song and I knew the perfect line was going to come to me, and we had to get the song to the publisher the next day. And the girl who was putting music to it came up with a line that I absolutely hated. And I said, I don't want my name on that lyric, because I was going to be listed as the lyricist. So I told my brain, I said, I knew I had to do it that night or it was too late the next day. We were going to record it the next day. So I told my brain, I said, please, please, please find that. And I'd use this for other things. So I knew to have a piece of paper and pen there. And I went to sleep, and in the middle of the night, sure enough, I woke up and there it was. Perfect. It was the perfect line. And I've used it for, like I said, I could do a whole 3-hour webinar on all the things I've used it for. So here's this guy talking about all these examples of how you can guide your dreams. You can ask questions. And I thought it's just like going into a little deeper level of hypnosis. The same things that we're asking our clients, you know, in the pre-talk and getting prepped for, and then when we get into hypnosis, the things that they're doing and accessing beyond their conscious, logical human mind is also available when you go to sleep at night. So hopefully you're using those things. And if you aren't, I would recommend you create a project and see what happens, because you'll blow yourself away. And you can have your clients also be saying things as they're drifting off to sleep at night, or focusing on something that has to do with the goal that they have. That's a beautiful time for their unconscious mind while they're sleeping, to help them with what you are also helping them with in the official ritual of hypnosis, in, you know, when they're with you. So you can help them to get more work, because as we know, the answers come from the clients. So, you know, and then next time they see you, they'll have gone further in the direction you'd like to help them go. And guess what? That is an hour. That is a whole hour. Any comments, any questions, anything somebody would like to add at this point? It goes so fast. I just loved having all of you here, and I'd love to talk more about all these things. If anything I brought up you have questions about or would like more information on, uphypnosis@yahoo.com or uphypnosis@outlook.com is my email. I'm happy to talk to any of you. And like I said, all these are on, there's a bunch of them on the internet, on YouTube. If you put in Patricia Scott Hypnosis, you'll find all kinds of stuff. Because I'm having fun with this. It's like being in showbiz again, right? And, you know, I get to edit the videos and have all my audience here, and, you know, and talk. Except now I write my own scripts. Which
Patty,
is
can you talk
nice.
a little bit about the difference? You're offering the medical in February, right?
Yeah.
And you're also offering it as part of the May.
Oh yeah, that's right. I start one online myself through my company. And then what I do is I blend it with the people that take the one there, if they want to continue on. Yeah.
So if we sign up with you in February, what are we getting then for the medical?
That's signing up for the entire certification. It's considered a 50-hour training. You have to already have at least 220 hours of hypnosis training somewhere, because we're not going to teach you the basics. We're not going to be talking about language patterns and things. And although I'm finding people sometimes when they say they've had, you know, training elsewhere, I almost feel like I'm teaching them from the beginning again. I hate to say that, but you know, some get some things in their trainings and some don't get things that I just automatically assume they have. So I'm really working around all of that, because again, it's all the same, you know, it's just different ways of teaching. So yeah, you have to already be certified with at least 220 or 200 hours, I'm sorry, because IACT requires 220. NGH, I don't remember what they require. It's not even 200, but I think 200 hours of training somewhere, even if you're not certified, you can, you know, enough training, you've got it. Erickson wasn't certified anywhere, so I think he did okay. You know, nobody sanctioned him using this stuff, and we all learned a lot from him. So it's not about the piece of paper, although I love all my certificates and my certifications, and it reminds me I've been really busy the last 30 years. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, what would be the difference of taking it with you in February or waiting until May? And
If you
taking the
wait till
one
May, you're
day?
if you wait till May, you'll be going to Orlando. There's no online for that first day. And then you'll have to pay extra for the rest. And I make it's prorated, so, you know, pretty much.
Got it. Okay.
So if you want to get certified, then that you pay some more, and then you got outside assignments. You got up to, it's 50 hours total with the online and the outside assignments. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, happy Christmas, Merry New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate this time of year. Solstice, what is it? Winter solstice?
Yeah.
Winter solstice.
Winter solstice. I
Right.
forgot that until Judy reminded me. So, you know, celebrate life, celebrate right now, any moment. I love your Christmas tree and your stockings behind you, Jackie. It's beautiful. It's so cute.
Yeah,
is
that's
that
a,
one of
that's a
those?
backdrop.
It's a backdrop.
Yes,
It's
a
very, I
backdrop.
was just say your house looks a lot neater than mine.
Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
It's
Well,
a
thank you all
backdrop.
so much, and stay in touch. And this will be on the internet soon. And we lost Dr. Cynthia, but hopefully we'll see her again too. Take care, everybody.
Okay, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.